What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Hooligans. Make sure you guys rack up those likes, more hooligans. So, the press briefing just started. I'm not going to waste a whole bunch of time. We're going to reset it back to the beginning so we can catch it from the beginning. We're only a few minutes late, so it's not a big deal, but I want to check on everything and make sure everything is running smoothly. What's up, Robert? You were first today. What's up, 24/7? What's up, Mountain Life? What's up, Matthew? What's up, Colleen? What's up, B? Happy Freedom. What's up, Debacales? What's up, Rasta? What's up, Miscellaneous Hardware and Chicken? What's up, Maria? What's up, Sam? What's up, Sawdog? What's up, Damon Walker? What's up, JB? I don't know how to go about this one. Miss F? What's up, Miss F? What's up, Jerry? Appreciate you hooligans being here. Debacales. Hit the wrong button. What's up, American Hillbilly Me? What's up, everyone on the JeffMAC Live YouTube channel? What's up, Silence? What's up, Snooks? Happy Freedom. What's up, everyone on Twitch? What's up, everyone on Odyssey? What's up, everyone on Rumble? What's up, Joe? What's up, Serum? What's up, Rasta? What's up, Captain Seamus? What's up, JD? What's up, Free Mind Art? What's up, Lifelike? Happy Freedom, all you hooligans. Appreciate you being here. What's up, everyone watching on jeffmaclive.com? Alright, so I'm going to read you the schedule really quick. I don't know if we're going to have a watch party or not yet. We will see. See how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm feeling kind of spunky. We might play the game later. See. We'll see. Okay? We'll see. As of today, we're going to watch a press briefing. That's where we're going to start. It's live right now. Then we're going to watch about a minute of the 5 on Kamala Harris's husband talking about toxic masculinity. We're only going to listen to a minute of it. It's like 7 minutes of them pretty much being the conservative version of The View. And we don't need all that. But at the beginning, some good subject matter there. Then after that, we have Old Man Walter awarding the Medal of Honor to, what is RET? I don't know. Whatever that is. U.S. Army Colonel Paris Davis. And then after that, we have a video that is titled Dr. Segal. This is a big part of America's homeless crisis. We're going to try and cover all that before 2:30. I think we'll be able to get that in. That's what she said. All right, hooligans. Let me get this press briefing rewound. We still say that, right? You can rewind things. And then we'll get started. Startled myself. I started myself on that.
Why are you guys happy? The ladies in the front row. Oh my God. So then I'll just start in the back then.
That's how you prefer it, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, happy Friday. And yes, it is an all ladies crew in the front row. I wonder if there's history making here today. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm not sure what's going on with Andrea here. Got it? You're good?
Somebody's got it.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's Andrea. She's trying.
She's over here undressing them with her eyes.
I don't see you very often, and when I do, you cause a ruckus. Okay, so today, President Biden awarded the Medal of Honor to a true hero of our nation, Colonel Paris Davis, for the gallantry he displayed at great personal risk that went above and beyond the call of duty during combat operations in Vietnam. You all heard President Biden tell Colonel Davis's story in powerful remarks, but I just want to say that Colonel Davis represents the best of America. Despite being wounded while leading his men in combat, he refused to leave the battlefield until all the members of his team were evacuated. His bravery and devotion to our country during this battle has been recognized before in the form of a Silver Star and a Purple Heart. But until today, he never received the recognition for his extraordinary acts and well-deserved recognition, obviously, which is a Medal of Honor. We are proud to welcome Colonel Davis to the White House today as a Medal of Honor recipient. Today, the Biden-Harris administration is announcing its 33rd security assistance package for Ukraine using presidential drawdown authorities as we continue to surge weapons and equipment that Ukraine needs to defend itself against Russian aggression. This package includes more ammunition for U.S.-provided HIMARS and howitzers that Ukraine is using so effectively to defend itself, as well as ammunition for Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, armored vehicle launch bridges, and demolition munitions and equipment. The United States will continue to rally the world to support Ukraine. We have seen incredible commitment from our allies and partners and applaud the more than 50 countries, including Germany. As you all know, Germany's chancellor will be here at the White House momentarily. And that have come together to provide Ukraine with military assistance. These contributions are making a significant difference, enabling Ukraine to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Russia alone could end this war today. If they wished, they could end this war today. Until they are willing to do so, we will continue to strengthen Ukrainians' military on the battlefield so that they will be in the strongest possible position at any future negotiation at the table. Now, before we go to questions, I have a little bit on the week ahead, and I'll lay that out for you. On Sunday, March 5th, the President will travel to Selma, Alabama, where he will commemorate the 58th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. The President will deliver remarks at the Edmund Pettus Bridge and participate in the annual commemorative bridge crossing event. In his remarks, President Biden will talk about the importance of commemorating Bloody Sunday so that history cannot be erased. He will highlight how the continued fight for voting rights is integral to delivering economic justice and civil rights for Black Americans. In the evening, the President will return to the White House. On Monday, the President will headline the 2023 International Association of Firefighters Legislative Conference. On Thursday, the President will release his budget. The budget will show how the President plans to invest in America, continue to lower costs for families, protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare, reduce the deficit.
I got to grab some coffee. I'll be right back.
We will have, of course, more details to share with all of you next week. On Friday, the President will welcome President Ursula von der Leyen of the European Commission to the White House. The leaders will review the strong cooperation between the United States and the European Union to support Ukraine as it defends its sovereignty and democracy and to impose costs on Russia as for its aggression against Ukraine. They will also discuss U.S.-EU coordination to combat the climate crisis through investing in clean technology based on secure supply chains. The leaders will take stock of the Joint Task Force on Europe's energy security that they established 1 year ago, which has helped the EU reduce its dependence on Russian fossil fuels and accelerate its green transition. They will also discuss other international security challenges, including our work together to address the challenges posed by the People's Republic of Russia. With that, Colleen, good to see you. It's been a while.
Thanks.
You have the floor.
Great. It is your 100th press briefing.
Oh my gosh.
So
I'm sure you're thrilled.
Congratulations. How do you feel about that?
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, cheers.
Cheers. So moving right along. I wanted to ask about the DC criminal code again. We've been hearing that some of the House Democrats feel like they got thrown under the bus a little bit by the president's decision not to step in on the effort to stop the overhaul, which is a lot of negatives, I understand, but I think you know where I'm going. So I wanted to know, did the president give them a heads up on the decision? Was there any sort of back and forth about it?
So first, let me just say that the White House notified notified the members at the House retreat, as you know, that was earlier this week, or it's still happening in Baltimore. So that's number one. Number two, I do want to lay out that the president and the administration has a very close relationship with House Democrats and Senate Democrats as well. We have worked together. The president has worked very well with the members on delivering bold, historic pieces of legislation in his first 2 years of an administration, and is very proud of the relationship that he has with them. And our teams are constantly in communication with them. And so I'll leave that there. This is a very strong, important relationship for all of us here, including the president. I also want to state that, look, the president supports D.C. statehood. That is something that you saw in his SAP for this particular D.C. crime bill.
In his sack?
If Congress sends him a bill making D.C. state, he'll always be sure to sign it, because he's been talking about that for the last 2 decades. But vetoing the bill headed to his desk now won't make D.C. a state. And so those are the things that the president has been very clear about when it comes to D.C. and their statehood. And so I'll leave it there. But as it relates to the House, as it relates to Senate Democrats, it is a very important relationship for us, and clearly very important. And with the Senate Democratic Caucus, as you know, when he met with them yesterday, he provided what he was going to do and made it very clear to them, and they had that discussion.
I just also want to ask, so, Biden and the Democrats have talked a lot about the need to stem, rising crime, but also the need to reform a criminal justice system that still disproportionately affects, Black Americans. So why not engage in some sort of compromise, or why not let the D.C. bill, because, the mayor vetoed the criminal code, but she also proposed some changes that she thought would have made the system sort of better on the whole.
So just want to be very clear here, and if you look at the D.C. bill itself, and I know that there was a little bit of I was asked a couple of questions of what else does it do besides armed carjacking, and I don't normally go line by line on legislation, especially legislation that we haven't introduced, but I did talk to the team, and we have a couple of things that I just want to lay out for all of you. And on what the D.C. bill does, it reduces maximum penalties for offenses like murders and other homicides, armed home invasion burglaries, armed carjackings, as I mentioned, armed robberies, unlawful gun possession, and some sexual assault offenses. And so, look, the president has been very clear. We need to do more to reduce
super clear
communities safer, to save lives.
Thank you so much, F.U. Biden, for that $1.50 donation on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you.
That does just that we believe does exactly that. So the way that we see this bill, it doesn't actually reform policing practices. That's not something that it does. Reform like the ones the president has put forward at the federal level. You know about the executive order when it couldn't be done on the Senate side, moving forward with police reform. The president put forth a historic piece of an executive order to try to do what we can at the federal level. And so we believe that this bill does not actually do that.
Question on the meeting today with the German Chancellor. Not long ago, both Chancellor Scholz, along with President Macron, reportedly told Zelensky that he would soon have to make difficult decisions, urging the start of peace negotiations. Does the president see that as a sign that the united front that he's worked so hard to maintain, maybe not that united that much longer? And how much does he see today's sit down as a chance to just urge Scholz to stay the course?
So, look, the president is looking forward for a productive meeting with the German Chancellor. They first met. I don't know if some of you have been tracking this, but they first met when he became...
Waving her little claws all next to my head and stuff.
I believe on February 7th, so soon after he clearly took office, and they met here at the White House. And over the past several years, they've seen each other at the margins of the G7, at the summit in Germany, at NATO, at the G20 summit, and have talked by phone regularly. And so this is clearly a relationship that has been growing over the last year. And so, what we're seeing, how we see this meeting is a bilateral cooperation to talk about a range of issues, global security, economic issues, and at the forefront of this meeting that they're going to have, this bilat that they'll have pretty soon, it will be on Ukraine. And that coordination is going to continue. You saw the president in Warsaw, you saw him in Kyiv, you saw him having a bilat with the B9, and a meeting with the B9, a bilat with the president of Poland, and all of the actions and the meetings that the president has had over the last just several months is showing, I think, the strength of the Union, the strength of the EU, the strength of what you're seeing with the NATO allies in Europe and the West. And so I think that's going to continue. We believe that's going to continue. Remember, when Putin first started out on this war, he thought that NATO would be divided. He thought that the West would be divided. And we just have not seen that. If anything, we're seeing more coordination and more support for the people of Ukraine, for President Zelensky and the efforts that they're doing on the ground to defend their democracy.
But you are seeing signs that the approach is starting to look a little bit different, right? You say over and over again here, the president says, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, and yet you do see some allies saying, it is time to get to the negotiating table. They're concerned that they'll be able to do this for as long as it takes, as the president says. So does that not spark concern and worry amongst the president?
Look, Mary, we want this war to end. We do. We want this war to end. But it doesn't look like Russia is going to do that, right? And it is up to, they could end this war today, but they're not. And so what we're going to continue to do is support Ukraine the best way that we can. I just laid out a PDA, our 33rd drawdown since this war started, and we're going to continue to do that, continue to give them the support that they need on the ground. And look, you've heard President Zelensky talk about peace and wanting to move forward with peace. But at the same time, we have to make sure we strengthen their hand when those negotiations happen, that they are in a place of strength. And so that's what you're seeing from this president. That's what you're seeing from the allies across the globe. And you're going to see the president meeting with the German chancellor today. We're going to continue to show that supportive front, that coordination. They're going to have that discussion. And you saw that last week when the president was in Eastern Europe.
And it's sort of a housekeeping matter, but has the president had a chance yet, or does he plan to speak with former President Carter or members of his family, given, I don't think they've spoken yet since the news of his hospice care?
Yeah, I don't have a call to preview or to announce, as you know, and I've said this many times before, and I think many of you have reported this, that they've known each other since 1976. It's a relationship that has spanned many decades. The president certainly and the First Lady, their hearts are with President Carter and his family. I just don't have a conversation to preview at this time.
Given the importance of that relationship, is it something, it seems odd that it hasn't happened yet, I guess.
I mean, look, the president, when it's time and appropriate, certainly that conversation will happen. I just don't have anything at this time to preview.
Okay, so an EU official just said that the two sides are working toward an agreement in principle on a very limited agreement that would create a free trade-like status for the EU that would put it on par roughly with Canada and Mexico in terms of the IRA. Can you say anything more about your hopes for reaching some kind of a deal, at least on a very high level, when von der Leyen arrives next week?
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of that meeting. Clearly, that's going to be another important bilateral meeting focusing on the coordination, of course, on Ukraine and other important security issues and economic issues, as you just laid out, that both sides care about, right? The American Union and clearly the United States. As it relates to the IRA investments, the clean energy future will be invented and built and made in America. That's how we see the IRA's investment. The president will never back down from putting American jobs and American leadership at the heart of his strategy. Taxpayer dollars should go to support American jobs and American innovation. But the IRA's benefits expand beyond the U.S. Our investment will help drive down costs for clean energy, which will help other nations as well. That's how we see this important law that the president clearly fought tooth and nail for. And it's going to go further and faster in building their own clean energy economies. I'm not going to, again, get ahead of a meeting that's going to happen next week, but the president and we have been very clear on how important we feel the Inflation Reduction Act is. And again, we're always going to make sure that we support American jobs and clearly American tax dollars.
But I think the question is, how important is it to you to remove this irritant in the relationship at a time when you're looking at a protracted war in Ukraine, potentially China delivering lethal aid? I mean, is it important to shore up the alliance and at this point remove irritants at this trade?
I mean, look, clearly the relationship is important to this president. You have seen him across 2 years rebuild our relationship with our allies, something that was almost decimated in the last administration. We have a president who understands the importance of those types of foreign leadership relationships, who had them for many years before becoming president. And so, of course, we want to make sure there's a good working relationship, and you're going to see him continue to do that. Again, I don't want to.
Thank you so much, Sam, for gifting 5 memberships over on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sam.
With the EU next week, well, what I can say, it's an important conversation that will continue. They will have. It'll focus on clearly Ukraine, that continued coordination and support for the Ukrainian people as they are bravely fighting for their democracy.
And just one on the domestic front, on the budget, to what extent are you expecting the care economy and all those proposals that got removed from the previous pieces of legislation to come back? Will we see those items come back in one by one?
So I'm not going to get ahead of the president's budget. It's going to be released next Thursday, March 9th. But clearly the president remains committed to fighting for paid leave and child care policies. That is something, clearly he fought very hard for it in the beginning of the year as we were trying to move forward with that piece of legislation. And we believe fighting for what I just mentioned, paid leave and child care, is going to help grow the economy. It's going to help give American families and Americans across the country a little bit of a breathing room. But again, I'm just not.
All that breathing room. What's up, Adam? Happy freedom.
Budget that will be out next week.
Thanks, Breen. Just following up on Colleen's question on the D.C. crime bill. The House Democrats who are expressing anger and frustration, they are in part saying that they wish they had known sooner what the president's position would be. As you know, a whole bunch of House Democrats already voted against the bill. Why didn't the White House make this position clear before that vote had taken place in the House?
So, look, when we put out the SAP, I think it was around the State of the Union. I think that's when the SAP came out. We were very clear on where the
Pulled his sack out at the State of the Union?
he continues his commitment to D.C. statehood, and that's what you saw.
He continues his chlamydia?
Support for D.C. statehood, and at the time, many times.
I just can't take her serious at all at this point.
Many of you were asking me, I think your colleague was asking me, which direction the president was going to go, and he never made that clear in that SAP. And I think as it was becoming, we always let the process in Congress go through, right? Whatever mechanism they take, however it moves forward. So we're always very clear and careful about that. But as it now looks like it was going to come to his desk, we wanted to communicate where we were going to go. We wanted to communicate how the president was going to move forward with this particular bill, and we did, and we laid that out. We're explaining that now why he is moving forward in that way, and the White House and congressional Democrats, as we have known, have come together on many different things to deliver for the American people.
The sack of the Union, Kyle. I'm saying.
President supports D.C. statehood. He's been clear about that.
Looks like Soros is sitting behind her.
Not going to veto this bill from Congress, which does amount to Congress sort of meddling in D.C.'s own governance, right? So how do you square that circle? Both things can't be true.
No, we believe both things can be true. Look, right now, D.C. is not a state. This is coming to the president, right? This is something that's coming to his desk, and he has to take action. I just laid out a moment ago to Colleen why we felt that this bill doesn't actually deal with police reform. This president has been someone for many years, many decades, who has always put the safety of American families, certainly across the country, first. That's why he put together his Safer America.
Where is that happening at?
That lays out 100,000 cops in communities to work with communities to make sure that communities feel safe. The cops plan, that is something that the president started as senator. It's actually a policy that Republicans want to not fund and take away an option to make communities safe. So this is something that the president cares about very strongly, and the way that we see it is that this is coming to the president's desk. This is not a legislation that he put forward. D.C. is not yet a state, even though he supports D.C. statehood, and he had to make a decision. Look, again, we let the process move forward in Congress, and we felt this was the time to make that decision.
And I just had a quick follow-up on East Palestine. Senator Manchin said this week that the president visiting there would give confidence to the residents. Obviously, I know you guys haven't announced anything, no plans right now for him to go there, but do you think it could make a difference for the president to go, even if all that accomplished was to give some sort of reassurance to many of the residents there who are still very worried and upset about what happened?
Look, I believe you heard from the president just yesterday, who said that he's planning to go there at some point. What he's going to do is when that happens, we're going to coordinate with state and local officials to make that trip occur. Look.
What kind of statement is that? At some point in time in the future, he may go to Ohio. Okay. That's going to help people.
They get what they need to feel safe, to make sure that they feel like their community is healthy.
They got what they needed when the Orange Eagle landed.
That's why we made sure that
Come on,
they're
Kareen.
safe.
Thank you so much, CB,
But he
for
understands
continuing the membership program. I appreciate you. Thank you.
What happened and what occurred in their in their community these past couple of weeks. That's why HHS, FEMA, DOT, EPA have been on the ground, and it's been a multi-agency effort to make sure that they get what they need, to make sure that they have that safe air, that safe water, as I just mentioned. And the last part of that is we're going to make sure that Norfolk, Suffolk is held to account for the mess that they created. And that's what you're seeing. You've seen the EPA administrator. He was just there for a third time. And so the president's committed. He's keeping abreast or updated on a daily basis on what's going on the ground. He's talked to the governor of Ohio. He's spoken to the governor of Pennsylvania, the senators multiple times to make sure that they are getting everything that they need from the federal government.
Thank you, Kareen. You mentioned the SAP that the administration put out on February 6th, but it's not a broad statement about D.C. statehood. It specifically says that the administration opposes the resolution that would dismantle the crime bill. So when was this policy reversed, and why weren't House Democrats notified about the reversal?
So I'll say this. There was never a change of heart on where we were with the SAP. The SAP, the way that it's laid out, speaks to the president's support.
Speaks to
That is where
called it.
That's what we were at the time, wanted to make sure that we, again, lifted up where the president has been for the past decades, making sure that D.C., fighting for D.C. to become a state. And we actually say in the SAP that if Congress wants to move forward in that way, we should pass H.R. 51, make D.C. the 51 state. And so we never laid out where the president was going to go once it came to his desk, because we wanted to allow Congress to move forward in the way that they normally do with the mechanism when a piece of legislation moves forward. And so we never said anything at this time. Now we're communicating very clearly. Now that we know that this legislation is going to be in the president's at the president's desk, we're making very clear and communicating that where the president is on this legislation.
But I'm sorry. It specifically says the word opposes. So is it that the administration wasn't aware of the content the specifics of the crime bill, and now you are aware, and the president says he doesn't support some of the changes that the DC Council put forward? Because when you released the SAP, I'm assuming, maybe incorrectly, that you were very aware of what the council was proposing.
We were aware of what the council were proposing. What we're saying was that we wanted to make sure that we continued the president's continued.
President? That's who's really running things.
That's what we did in the SAP, and that was what was the most important thing that we believed. There was no veto threat in the SAP. There really wasn't. It may have been. I just read it while you were asking me. We didn't oppose. We opposed it, but there was no veto threat. So I want to be really clear about it. It stated our support for DC statehood.
What's up, Shanti?
It did not indicate what the president would do should the bill come to his desk. It did not say that. It did not lay that out. Now we're communicating that very clearly. We communicated with the House Democrats days ago when they were in Baltimore, and again, I said this to MJ. I remember many of you asking where we were going to go, and I said we don't have a decision yet. We don't have anything to share on this, on where the president's going to be with this particular bill, and now we are, because we know that it's going to come to his desk.
Captain Seamus, is she being clear?
That the president also did.
Clear as concrete.
That have to do with crime, and he obviously doesn't have the power to do anything about that. I'm trying to square his decision to use his power to do something in DC while he's also saying, the federal government, should allow them to be their own state.
Because DC is not a state.
So
This bill,
and therefore he should.
DC is not a state, so therefore the bill is coming to his desk, so he has to make a decision. It's as simple as that, Reja, right? Because DC is not a state. Now, he wants DC to become a state. We've been very clear about that. He has said that for decades, that he believes in DC statehood, but it's not. And so therefore,
You hooligans going in on her hair. I'm not sure who told her to try and pull off that Shirley Temple look, but I don't think she's achieving it.
A decision, and that's where we are. It's as simple as that. Now, if DC becomes a state, yes, the president believes that it should be governing, city should be governing on its own. That's what he believes.
But until then, they should.
Happy Freemanette.
Ouija, DC is not a state.
Right, but I'm asking because he does have an option to veto. That is one action he could take.
But again, this is a president that believes in keeping communities safe. He believes in keeping the 700,000 residents in DC safe. And so he's.
But what about like the rest of the country? You don't believe in that?
We didn't put this legislation to get forth. This is not our legislation. This is a legislation that is coming before the President of the United States because DC is not a state. It's just not. So he has to make a decision. So he's going to make a decision that will
be happy. She looks like a Swiffer.
That will deliver.
Because she sucks so much.
And it's as simple as that.
Thank you.
I'm seeing two perhaps parallels here in the discussion about the SAP, which is the Statement of Administration Policy. Isn't it really boiling?
Ooh, she's casting spells with her hands.
Here that was saying that
she looks like Mickey Mouse in Fantasia.
This, and then really when the recognition takes place, this would make the president look tough on crime, that the wheels stopped, and now you have a new position. Isn't that really what happened here?
What I can tell you what happened is that there was no change of heart. Yes, in the language, I just read it as read it again.
Jerry, is that Beetlejuice in the bottom right? No, that's actually a picture of Karine. That's literally Karine over there.
It's not unusual.
Simon posted it on his Twitter, and I jacked it. And I can't ever decide between the two mascot photos we have, so I just put them both up.
To do that.
But that's an actual picture of Karine.
It's going to come to his desk
when she's not at work.
Communicating that very clearly. The president communicated that with all of you yesterday, and so now we have made a decision on where we're going to go with this particular piece of legislation.
Because those of us who cover this read these things all the time. The general public may not even know what we're talking about here.
No,
but it seems like
pretty sure they're not.
There was a bureaucratic push in one direction on this, and then when it reached a certain point, and crime is a big issue in America in certain cities. We saw it reflected in the election in Chicago. We know it's a concern. It's been a concern in the city that many of us live in here.
Look at the guy in the compliance cloth leaning over. He might as well just hop on her shoulders and take the picture.
Administration set up. Isn't it really just that simple?
I wouldn't say it's that simple. First of all, let me just step back for a second. This is, when you look at crime and the rise of crime over the last couple of years, this is something that the president inherited, and he took action, right, with Safer America plan and making sure that he did everything that he can using the tools that he has in federal government.
Faded. She looks like a fancy tampon.
Community safe. I talked about the 100,000 cops to put them in communities.
It's modern. It's nice and modern.
Safe. And that's not just that. There's the COPS program, right? And we're going to see from the president's budget how his commitment to that.
How is chlamydia?
What we are seeing is we saw D.C. Council put forth a piece of legislation. They're not a state. They went through their processes, right? They went through their mechanics. It ended up in Congress. We put out a SAP saying, yes, we oppose it, but also we support D.C. statehood. That's what it says in our SAP. But we never...
In our SAC.
From that, where the president was going to go, because we were also letting that process play out in Congress. Now that we know that it's coming to the desk of the president, we're communicating where the president stands on this piece of the D.C. crime bill, this piece of legislation.
The other sharp turn quickly, on East Palestine. Not going to go, not visiting, no plans to visit.
Not at this time, as you heard from the president.
Himself says, okay, we're going to go there at some point.
At some point,
Okay, so there's a political critical mass that has been building, and it would appear that this is one of those national events where people will not be satisfied until the president himself goes there, even if you have all of your important cabinet level officials go. So it also appears as if not going to go, okay, now we're going to go. So what are the factors that will be required for the president to go? Is it a specific deliverable that he can bring? Is it a specific invitation from local officials? Is it a certain kind of window where he will feel comfortable?
Well, he already got an invitation from the governor. I think you heard the governor said he's welcome to come to Ohio. He's been to Ohio many times before during his...
I didn't know an invitation was required.
It's not unusual for him to go there. Look, I don't have anything to preview. The president was asked a question, and he answered it very honestly. And once we have more to share...
Did they give him an invitation to Delaware every weekend?
You know, we're going to coordinate. It would be coordinated with the state and officials on the ground, and we'll certainly lay out what that...
I mean, the president himself...
Ohio Kyle, is this you? No, it's actually the orange eagle. That was the inspiration when I made that emoji, actually.
He was asked a direct question, and he's been updated throughout, being regularly updated on what has been happening on the ground by his team, by the local and state officials in Ohio and Pennsylvania. And, you know, I will just leave it there. We know the president. He answers a question very honestly, and he said, you know, sometime in the future I will probably go. But I don't...
Enterprise. No, I don't think it's a wig. I think this picture over here is
we don't have any
old.
Preview to all of you at this time. It's just he was asked the question, and he answered it honestly. Go ahead.
Thanks. Just on the D.C. issue, just one point of clarity. Does the president view this as a one-time interference in D.C. affairs, or does he hold out the possibility that could happen?
I mean, that's a hypothetical that I can't answer from here. There was a specific issue that came before us, and the press. Yeah, but you're asking a hypothetical that I can't answer at this time.
Senator Menendez urged the president yesterday to
she's getting all mad.
Nominate a Latino American as Fed vice chair. Can you say, I know you don't want to get ahead of the process, but can you say publicly whether a Latino American is under consideration?
I'm not going to get ahead of the process. Okay.
Hey, a couple questions. One is I wanted to ask for the administration's response to Walgreens saying that they will distribute abortion pills in states where Republican governors have asked them not to. Want to know what you all are thinking, and are you concerned that other pharmacies who have been threatened with potential legal action will follow suit?
Yeah, I have a statement here that I want to read out to all of you. So elected officials targeting pharmacies and their ability to provide women with access to safe, effective, and FDA-approved medication is dangerous and just unacceptable. We've said this before. I've said this before.
Yeah, we know.
this pill.
We've said this before. Yeah, we got that.
More than 2
Got it.
decades, and is regularly used for both miscarriage and management and abortion, as also it's used in more than 60 countries. The Department of Justice has already independently issued an opinion related to this issue that is at odds with this dangerous effort. This is all a part of a continued effort by anti-abortion extremists who want to use
Channel Q, Walmart is leaving Portland. It must be really bad there if Walmart's leaving. Where I live, Walmart's like the worst part of town.
expert judgment in approving and regulating medications, and in the face of barriers to access and concerns about safety of patients, healthcare providers, and pharmacists, we will continue to support access to this critical medication within the limits of the law, which is why the President issued his January recent presidential memorandum that aims to preserve
Happy Freeing Ink Scars, and welcome to Live.
and will emphasize again is used for miscarriage management and abortion. So that is what we wanted to say on the Walgreens front.
So it sounds like you all think it's dangerous. Are there any sort of mechanisms that you see for continuing to provide access in those cases? Has the White House been in touch, or the administration been in touch with Walgreens? I mean, it's a huge pharmacy throughout much of the country.
No, totally. I totally understand, which is why we're saying this is unfortunately unacceptable and dangerous. Look, the Department of Justice is independently issued an opinion related to this. I'm not going to get ahead of that, or I'll just, make sure, refer you to.
Just say you don't know. Just say you don't know.
more than what I just
We'll take that over,
Years, totally. I wanted to ask you about inflation. The Fed said today, actually, in its semi-annual report to Congress, it suggested that more rate hikes would be needed to curb inflation. And I know you all have been fairly confident that inflation is slowing and that this would all lead to a soft landing. I'm curious if you all still feel that a soft landing is possible, and if so, can you help me understand why you are so confident in that assessment?
word gymnastics.
There's going to be it's going to go into a steady and stable growth, and sometimes there'll be some up and downs, right? We have been very clear about that. I think the last Brian Deese's last briefing, he actually laid that out for all of you. Look, the way that we see it, and the reason why we feel very confident in this, is that the president's economic agenda, the way that we see it, and others have as well, is that it's making progress to bring inflation down. You have inflation that's down by 30% from last summer, but we always understand that there's more work to do. And we also understand that the way that we got here is because of COVID-19, it's because of Russia's war against Ukraine. All of those things have disrupted global energy, food supplies, and caused inflation to spike around the world. But the president's going to continue to do everything that he can to lower costs. You're going to see his March 9th budget in less than a week.
You're going to see his,
Lowered,
nah, we ain't showing that.
prices by
Thank you so much, Snooks, for gifting 10 memberships over on YouTube. I appreciate you, Snooks. Thank you for everything you do.
than they were 7 months ago. And so we're going to continue to do that. Let's not forget.
Make sure you guys are thanking those hooligans that are gifting those memberships.
Pieces of
That stuff's not free.
passed under this president, capping insulin by $35 per month for seniors on Medicare.
$35.
Now we see farmer
I don't know who can afford deer licenses at this inflation rate.
Americans capping at
$35.
Those are the things
I don't know.
to work on to lower costs.
Like the 30-point buck. What is it? The Canadian stuff? That 30-point buck.
The data
Just
shows
popped right in my head. That'll be stuck in my head all day.
moderating over the last 6 months, and we think that's important to speak to.
I mean, it's been, I would say, rather sticky.
Well, and that's why we say we have more work to do. We're not saying that we don't have more
She say the ground is sticky?
Every time we talk
Like in a movie theater?
Every time we talk about the economy, we say that there's more work to do. That's why the president takes extra steps, like the IRA, takes extra steps to make sure that we bring down costs for the American family. But the data shows it has indeed moderated, and so that's what we look at. That to your question, original question, that what gives us some encouragement that we will get to that steady and stable growth.
I just want to go back to the bilateral. Last time Chancellor Scholz was here was just a few weeks before the start of the war.
Yeah.
Back then, in the lead up to the invasion, there was really an effort by the president.
Heaven, Mag, she said her hair is sticky.
Unite the allies and be prepared to.
Said that pearl necklace was sticky.
As possible with sanctions, with help to Ukraine. Are these similar conversations happening right now between the U.S. and European allies, other allies?
You gotta be able to make yourself laugh.
Possibility that China sends weapons to Russia and to be ready to act quickly the way they were ready to act quickly a year ago?
So, first of all, as you know, they had a G7 call just last week. The president was in Ukraine, and he was also in Poland. There's constant communication with our allies that the president is having. It doesn't. They're not one-offs here. They are consistent and they are continuous. And so I just want to be very clear there. And look.
No, Robert, I've never heard of that. I'll have to look it up.
We have not, we have not seen any. We have not seen we haven't seen China do anything yet as it relates to lethal weapons, and we believe that Russia's war in Ukraine has put China in a difficult position to actually.
Jordan, you have a hard time over there?
Move
Words are hard.
in that direction. Thank
you so much, Big Weave, for the 500 bits over on Twitch. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Around the world, but one of
What's up, beer guy?
piece, but as I've mentioned before, Secretary Blinken met with Wang Yi just recently in Munich and made himself really clear. They had a very clear conversation, and keeping that communication, that line of communication open is very important to us as well. But again, we haven't seen China take that action yet, but we've been very clear and had conversations with China.
Super clear.
Another one on the IRA. This meeting with Chancellor Scholz is one of several meetings with European leaders. When President Macron was here for the state visit in early December, the message of the administration was, we are in...
Is that a shapeshifter?
...the concerns of our European allies, and we're having discussions. Has there been any progress, any change, or is this still hearing, listening mode? And
so I spoke to this a little bit. These relationships are clearly important to us. We're still in listening mode. We're still in discussion, and just don't have anything more to share on what's next with that. But we think the Inflation Reduction Act is incredibly important to the American people, to our taxpayers.
What's up, Lawson? Welcome to the live.
We support American job and American innovation. The president will never back down from that, and so I'll just leave it there.
Tennessee's governor signed 2 anti-LGBTQ bills into law on Thursday, one that bans many drag performances from taking place on public property. Another bans most gender-affirming care to transgender youth. What does the White House make of these laws, and is there anything you can do or planning to do about these laws?
So I'll say this.
Nope.
Focused on so many issues. We just talked about economy, we just talked about inflation, we're talking about safer communities and schools, and good health care. All of the things that you all ask me every day, and you all know that's what the American people care about. That's what, even when they went to vote in November, those were the issues that mattered the most to them. But instead of doing anything to address those real issues that are impacting American people, right now you have a governor from Tennessee has decided to go after drag shows. What sense does that make, to go after drag shows?
It hurts kids, you idiot.
Who are thinking about the economy, who are thinking about making sure their kids are going to be safe when they go to school, their communities are safe. But that's
how can you say that all in the same statement? You're not keeping kids safe if you're sending them to go hang out with shapeshifters, you special individual. The censoring is hard over here. My goodness, about blew a blood vessel.
Other places as well.
Thank you so much, Lawson, for joining the membership program, and welcome to the family. You're officially a hooligan. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Particular issue, he hasn't been able to cite any examples, anything.
KJP needs 2 uppercuts. Stat.
Drag shows in public spaces are a problem. He hasn't laid that out at all on why this is an issue for American people. So I've said this before from here. I said this, I believe, last week, and we'll keep saying it, that these ridiculous policies aren't just unnecessary.
It shouldn't. You're right. It shouldn't be necessary, but because of the world we live in today, it is absolutely necessary. You need to protect kids at all costs.
And violence. mental health
She's
issues, and it
burning me up.
it is completely unacceptable for a governor to be moving in this way, to be with such a bill, and it is also unfortunate.
What's your message to the LGBTQ youth in the state, as well as drag performers? What's your message to them?
So the president always has been very clear when it comes to vulnerable communities like LGBTQ community that he has their backs, and he has a record to show that. He has a record that shows that he supports this community and will continue to be there for the community as long as it takes. Go ahead.
Thanks, Corinne. I want to go back to something I asked you just the other day.
I hope she slams her hand in the car door.
The issue of cartels. The Attorney General was asked whether or not he'd be open to labeling the top cartels in Mexico as foreign terrorist organizations. He said he didn't oppose the idea. Just yesterday, Bill Barr, his predecessor, Merrick Garland's predecessor, went a bit further, saying that the U.S. should have a military presence inside Mexico. So now it's the two most recent attorney generals, one in a Democratic administration, one in a Republican administration, basically saying we can do more about this issue going forward. So a couple questions along that line. Does the Biden administration need to reassess its posture as it relates to taking on these cartels?
I'm just not going to get ahead of what the Department of Justice said, of what Merrick Garland said. As you know, they move in an independent way. I'm just not going to get ahead of any policies that may be coming out from the Department of Justice, and I'll just leave it there.
What about Bill Barr suggesting that maybe we put a military presence or have a military presence inside Mexico?
I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to comment on what Bill Barr has said.
But has the president ever thought about that idea or considered that idea?
But you're asking me to comment on Bill Barr, who was the Attorney General during Trump's administration. I'm just not going to comment.
What about the general idea, though?
Okay. Hold on. So the pool has to gather. What's the plan?
Schultz visit.
Oh, the Schultz visit. Okay. All right. So what are we doing? We're going to wrap it up?
Wrap it up.
Okay. All right. We got to wrap it up. Sorry, guys. Have a great weekend.
So you're not going to call on Jackie? Not going to do that? Okay. Okay. I hope she trips and falls and lands on Legos. Trash bag. Gee willikers. Well, it's not over yet. We're going to be covering about a minute of this video that's titled The Five on Hyena Harris's husband taking on toxic masculinity. We're not going to listen to their whole deal because, like I said before, they're just pretty much the right-wing version of The View. But I want to hear the subject matter because it is nice and pathetic. Alright, I'm going to read through the chat really quick and we're going to get this started. Thank you so much, Melba Toast, for that $5 donation on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you. I can't believe Karine said that stupid stuff. Like, they're victims on stage showing the goods to children. Like, oh man. I want to see some justice so bad. So bad. What a stupid thing to talk about. She's on the wrong side. She is on the wrong side. My goodness. Well, let's move forward with some more dumb statements. Let's get her started, hooligans.
Kamala Harris's husband is on a mission. Second gentleman Doug Emhoff stirring up debate on the role of men in society. Oh my gosh. After bashing toxic masculinity.
Has being second gentleman changed your own view of perceived gender roles or what it means to be a man?
This is something I've thought about a lot and something I've spoken about a lot.
Look at this softy.
Of toxicity. It's masculine toxicity out there, and we've kind of confused what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine, where you've got this trope out there that you've got to be tough and, you know, angry and lash out to be strong. Just the opposite.
Of all the issues in all the world, This is the issue he's choosing. I think he's not busy enough, Greg.
No, this is gaining a lot of traction because the VP claims he's continuing to speak out against toxic masculinity. Has anybody ever heard him speak ever? I haven't. Maybe that's how he fights toxic masculinity, by keeping his pretty little mouth shut, unless he's kissing Dr. Jill.
I think that is hilarious that they created their own word that's like calling you a racist for being a man. Toxic masculinity. I understand there's good guys and bad guys, just like there's good girls and bad girls, just like anything else, right? There's balance. But they just take anything that represents a man and just label it toxic masculinity. It's like calling you a racist. So stupid. And I like how they called him out for kissing on Jill Handler. Well, I don't know. He was standing there. She's the one that came down the aisle, planted those lips right on him. I don't know. That looks like behavior of someone who's toxic masculinity. I don't know. That's where the phrase mansplaining came from. I didn't even know what that was. I had to Google it. What is mansplaining? And if you guys don't know what that is, supposedly it's something along the lines of kind of rephrasing something a woman is saying as if she was not capable of explaining it on herself, like on her own, or speaking for a woman and not allowing her to speak her own mind. That's mansplaining. That is dumb phrasing. That's what that is. That is just dumb phrasing all on its own. I don't know. These labels is just more division, more reasons for us to aim at each other instead of looking at the real problem. I don't know. Channel Q, hating men is toxic. Yeah, it's popular right now. I made a post on Twitter about it. I responded to a post that was talking about that, about how it's pretty trendy to hate on men right now. Oh man, the people that were coming for me, telling me what kind of POS I am. A lot of people wanted to be like, well, you know how hard women have had it? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I do. I stand up for women all day. All day. But that doesn't make it okay to hate on men. Like that, what? That's like talking about the Orange Eagle. No matter how many bad things you list about him, that does not make old man Walter good at what he does. That's not how that works. You can't kick someone else's sandcastle over and be like, oh, look how tall mine is now. That's not how that works. We're just burning each other's houses down and like celebrating over it. So stupid. So stupid. Thank you so much, Kelly, for that $17 donation on YouTube. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kelly. Anyways, moving forward. This next one, this is the award ceremony. Yeah, we got time. I think we're going to be able to cover all this in one shot. What do you know? We're going to be covering the award ceremony that they were referencing throughout the press briefing. It's a little under 20 minutes long. It may not even be that long. I just kind of skimmed through it. But it's Old Man Walter update. The Old Man Walter update. We'll see which version it is. I can't remember. Is this where he was going to talk about his sack? I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure. Let's get her started. Sounds like he's getting married. It's looking like the old folks' home.
Writes, praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold, my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we mark this very special occasion in prayer. Almighty God, author of liberty and champion of the oppressed, I praise you for the life, heroic leadership, and distinctive service of your humble servant, Colonel Retired Paris D. Davis. Our Army has always counted on our leaders to be fully committed to our nation's ideals, to our Army values, and to all the soldiers under their command. Colonel Davis is a warrior leader who demonstrated what it looks like under the most challenging of conditions. We are humbled and inspired by Colonel Davis's example. In the moments that mattered most to those with him from the Operational Detachment Alpha 321 5th Special Forces Group Airborne and the Army of the Republic of Vietnam 83rd Regional Force Company with him on that day of battle in 1965, your servant displayed uncommon fortitude and courage and the willingness to sacrifice his own life to save others. The men under his charge looked to him for leadership, and by your strength he delivered. As Colonel Davis rightly receives our nation's highest military award for valor in action, for distinguishing himself by acts of gallantry above and beyond the call of duty, I humbly ask that his legacy not be defined by this moment or the receiving of this medal, but may the legacy of this medal and the rich history it bears be further evidenced and enriched by the character, selflessness, and heroism of Colonel Davis. And may his life, which has been marked by a commitment to you and a sacred commitment to all that freedom-loving people cherish and hold dear, serve as a continued beacon of inspiration for all who witness today's activities and learn of his courageous actions under fire. Finally, may this ceremony serve as a testament of hope for the world's oppressed and as a terrible warning to the oppressor, because our nation still has men and women like Colonel Davis in our ranks, across our military services, who stand ready to step into the breach. We thank you, O Lord, for this reality. It is in your most holy name I pray. Amen.
Old man Walter's lost again. You can see it in his face. He does this weird thing with his eyebrows when he's just lost.
I have to say at the outset, I've had the great honor, and we have other Medal of Honor recipients here, and that I've been able to...
It's supposed to be over your eye, right? Like, it's not supposed to be like doing this stuff. He's done that a couple times now this week.
Secretary, may be the most consequential day since I've been president. It's an incredible man. 158 years ago today, in this White House, President Lincoln was putting the final touches on his second inaugural address. And he wrote, "Let us strive to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, and care for him who shall have borne the battle." Today, 58 years after he bore the battle, we honor a true hero of our nation, Colonel Paris Davis. I've had a chance to get to talk to him a little bit. We talked on the phone, and he doesn't know, but we're going to talk a lot more. Incredible guy. The Medal of Honor, created during Lincoln's presidency, is our country's highest military award recognizing gallantry above and beyond the call of duty. That word gallantry, it's not much used these days, gallantry. But I can think of no better word to describe Paris, to describe you. I really can't. Gallantry.
Shirley, saluting his mouth. Yeah.
That includes Secretary Austin and Secretary McDonough and Secretary of the Army Wormuth and the Vice Chairman Grady and General McConville, Representative Byer. Where's Representative Byer? Thank you. Thank you.
Where's Jackie?
Appreciate it. For joining us today. Now, as many of you know, Paris will be the first to tell you that he hates the word I, that it was his team who served and his team who sacrificed. So today I'm truly honored to welcome one of those teammates, Ron Dice. Where's Ron? Ron. You can clap for that. He was the airborne spotter for that team. And it's only a few days ago, right? I also want to thank previous Medal of Honor recipients who are here, who joined us to recognize their brother-in-arms, Leroy Petrie, William Swenson, Melvin Morris, Matthew Williams, and Earl Pumley. Stand up, guys. You're looking at courage in the flesh.
I like how they're clapping just abruptly stopped. Just, I don't know. Seems severely manipulated.
Was a hero, but he didn't have to win this medal for you to know that. You knew it all along. You really did, didn't you, when you were kids? You knew growing up. And, and like you, I wish your brother Christopher was still with us to see your dad's finally recognize his story. It's a story that didn't just begin in the Vietnamese village 58 years ago. Instead, picture Paris in 1956, the son of a Midwestern foundry worker, starting his first year at Southern University in the heart of Louisiana. The college football team quickly noticed that Paris had the grit and the guts it needed on the team. So before long, Paris not only joined the team, but he was named All-American before us. He's a very slow learner, this guy. I tell you what, but off the field, Paris saw constant reminders that to many, he was less than an American. And that in the eyes of the law, he was less than a person. Signs on bars that read whites only, seats on buses where were off limits for African Americans, schools, streets, shops divided by segregation. Paris endured all of this and still chose to join his college ROTC unit, volunteering to serve a country that in many places still refused to serve people who looked like him. Right away, it was clear that Paris was a born warrior. He became an Army Ranger. Then he jumped at the chance to join the Green Berets, becoming one of the nation's first black Special Forces officers. Paris liked the Green Berets because they were elite. It wasn't just, as Paris once said, Joe here, Joe there. By the way, it didn't offend me you said Joe here, Joe there. That didn't bother me. But the Green Berets, like our country then, weren't free from discrimination either. People pull Paris aside to warn him. Are you sure you want to join? There aren't a lot of people like you, look like you in this outfit. Well, remember, this was only 14 years after President Truman desegregated our military. Only 14 years.
Look how fat his face looks.
Paris didn't listen to them, and thank God he didn't. Paris helped write the history of our nation. And this year, we celebrate the 75th anniversary of our first fully integrated armed forces, and name Paris Davis will still stand alongside the nation's pioneering heroes. In the early hours of June 18th, 1965, and his then Captain Davis, and his team with 3 of the Green Berets were wrapping up a job.
Klaus Daniels had to come see what this commie was talking about.
Just finished a 10-mile march through the night to support a company of South Vietnamese soldiers on their first combat mission, a raid against the Viet Cong, thick in the jungle of Bong Song. The raid
sound like he's rapping.
But as the sun began to rise, the men heard that haunting sound ring out. A bugle, a sure sign of a counterattack. Within minutes, the jungle lit up with enemy fire. Hundreds of Viet Cong began to swarm Captain Davis and his team, pinning them down in a rice paddy with no cover. Captain Davis rallied his team to fight back. Getting so close to the enemy, he was battling them hand to hand. Hours, this is the part that stuns me, hours into that fight, Captain suddenly heard a sound worse than the bugle, his teammate crying out for help. His team sergeant had been shot badly in his foot and his leg, trapping him in the middle of the paddy. And it got worse. On the far side of the field, his weapons specialist was stuck in a cesspit after being temporarily knocked out by shrapnel. And even further beyond him was his medic, who had been shot in the head. Captain Davis realized he was the last American standing. Without hesitation, he yelled, "I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you." He called in friendly fire.
I'm probably going to have to jack that soundbite right there.
On his first attempt to get to Team Sergeant, Captain Davis was shot in the arm and had to turn back. Captain Davis waited for another window and sprinted back out again. But his team sergeant was stuck. Captain Davis couldn't fully break him free before he had to return to cover. He didn't give up, though. That's not the Green Beret way. For his third time, As enemy fire rained down him, he ran out. Captain Davis freed his team sergeant, threw him over his shoulder, and started carrying up the hill to safety. Captain Davis got about halfway up the hill before a bullet pierced his leg. Then, in front of him, another Green Beret sergeant who had just arrived to the battle to reinforce the team was shot in the chest and now needed to be rescued as well. Captain Davis limped up the hill with his team sergeant on his shoulder. He'd been fighting for around 10 hours, but Captain Davis didn't hesitate. He went back down the hill to retrieve the reinforcement who had been just shot in the chest, all 240 pounds of him. Next, Captain Davis ran to his weapons specialist.
Donuts. Soundbite of the week, I'm saying.
Viet Cong fighters.
It's going to be a good one.
Fire across the field as Captain Davis threw his teammate a rope, pulled him out, and began to haul him up the hill as well. But this time, the rescue helicopter had landed. Captain Davis' commander gave him a direct order, "Get on board." Davis' response was just as direct. "Sir," he said, "I'm just not going to leave. I still have an American out there." Unsure if he was still alive, Captain Davis began to plan how he would get his medic. Just the day before, the medic had found out he was the good news. He was a new father. His wife had given birth to their first child. Captain Davis was going to give him a chance to see his baby boy. He pinpointed the medic's position and began crawling toward him, with gunfire and grenades still exploding around him. When he got there, the medic, still alive, asked him, "Am I going to die? Am I going to die?" Captain Davis responded, "Not before me." Still fending off the Viet Cong assailants, Captain Davis hauled his medic up the hill. And nearly 20 hours later, after that bugle first rang, Captain Davis had saved each one of his fellow Americans. Every single one. Just as the story of Paris Davis did not begin on June 18, 1965, it does not end there either. Captain Davis went on to become Colonel Davis, serving more than 25 years in our military and earning a PhD on top of that. He received the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, the Air Medal, the Purple Heart. And even after he hung up his uniform, the captain continued to serve the community, founding the Metro Herald, a newspaper that focused on his local community and civil rights issues. I wish I could say that this story of Paris' sacrifice on that day in 1965 was fully recognized and rewarded immediately. But sadly, we know they weren't. At the time Captain Davis returned from war, the country was still battling segregation. Returned from Vietnam to experience some of his fellow soldiers crossing the other side of the street when they saw him in America. And although the men who were with him on that June day immediately nominated Captain Davis to receive the Medal of Honor, somehow the paperwork was never processed. Not just once, but twice. But you know what Captain Davis said after learning he would finally receive the Medal of Honor? Quote, "America was behind me. America was behind me." He never lost faith, which I find astounding. He never stopped believing in the founding vision of our nation, a vision that Lincoln kept alive 158 years ago, and a vision Paris fought to defend 58 years ago. This vision for a more perfect union, one where all women and men are created equal. You know, we're the most unique nation in the world. We're the only nation founded on an idea. Every other nation is founded based on a philosophy, based on ethnicity, religion, whatever, an idea. It's captured, and we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty. We've never fully lived up to it, but we've never walked away from it. This is evidence we're still not going to walk away from it. Look, folks, we never ever walked away from our troops who dare all and give all to our nation.
So you're going to give us the angry screaming?
You are everything this medal means. I mean everything this medal means. And look,
you almost just poked my eye out.
Aspired to be. You're everything our nation is at our best. Brave and big-hearted, determined and devoted, selfless and steadfast, American. And now at long
He's saying it like this is a Ford commercial.
to ask Lieutenant Colonel Rowe to read the citation.
I think there's a marker on the floor. I think that's why he was looking at the ground. He was trying to find the marker for where he's supposed to stand.
The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, March 3, 1863, has awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Captain Paris D. Davis, United States Army, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his own life above and beyond the call of duty. Captain Paris D. Davis, Commander, Detachment A321, 5th Special Forces Group Airborne, 1st Special Forces, distinguished himself by acts of gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty while serving as an advisor to the 883rd Regional Force Company, Army of the Republic of Vietnam, during combat operations against an armed enemy in the vicinity of Bong Son, Republic of Vietnam, on June 17 through 18, 1965. Captain Davis and 3 other U.S. Special Forces advisors accompanied the Vietnamese 883rd Regional Force Company on its first combat mission, a daring nighttime raid against a Viet Cong regional headquarters housing a superior enemy force. Captain Davis' advice and leadership allowed the company to gain the tactical advantage, allowing it to surprise the unsuspecting enemy force and kill approximately 100 enemy soldiers. While returning from the successful raid, the Regional Force Company was ambushed and sustained several casualties. Captain Davis consistently exposed himself to the hostile small arms fire to rally the inexperienced and disorganized company. He expertly directed both artillery and small arms fire, enabling other elements of the company to reach his position. Although wounded in the leg, he aided in the evacuation of other wounded men in his unit, but refused medical evacuation himself. Following the arrival of air support, Captain Davis directed artillery fire within 30 meters of his own position in an attempt to halt the enemy's advance. Then, with complete disregard for his own life, he braved intense enemy fire to cross an open field to rescue his seriously wounded and immobilized team sergeant. While carrying the sergeant up a hill to a position of relative safety, Captain Davis was again wounded by enemy fire. Despite 2 painful wounds, Captain Davis again refused medical evacuation, remained with the troops, fought bravely, and provided pivotal leadership and inspiration to the Regional Force Company as they repelled several Viet Cong assaults on their position over a period of several hours. When friendly reinforcements finally arrived, Captain Davis again refused medical evacuation until he had recovered an U.S. advisor under his command who had been wounded during the initial ambush and presumed dead. While personally recovering the wounded soldier, he found him severely wounded but still clinging to life. Captain Davis directed the helicopter extraction of his wounded colleague, not leaving the battlefield himself until after all friendly forces were recovered or medically evacuated. Captain Davis' heroism and selflessness, above and beyond the call of duty at the risk of his own life, are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army.
Oh man, Walter looked like he was weaving back and forth. Excuse you. Over here tapping on me. Klaus Daniels, you interrupted me, buddy. You can go lay down somewhere. Why didn't they just let the other guy say it? Old man Walter stammered through that story terribly. You should have just let the narrator say it. Got this cat behind me. Clap right into that microphone. Getting it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please receive this benediction. Gracious and everlasting God, as we depart this ceremony, inspired by the courageous actions of Colonel Davis, help us to follow his selfless example as we serve our nation's people. May our participation in today's ceremony, coupled with the strengthening and shaping of your spirit to compel us to live lives of integrity and valor for the good of the nation, for the good of our families, and for the good of humankind around the world. Bless and protect our armed forces as they preserve our precious freedoms. Keep the lamp of liberty burning bright on the United States of America and our allies around the world. And grant us all your grace to meet the challenges ahead, the strength to overcome every obstacle, and impart to us the wisdom and the will to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before you all the days of our lives. It is in your most holy and precious name I pray. Amen.
Distinguished guests, please remain in your seats as the President departs. Thank you.
Well, we got one more video, a short video. Oh. Old man Walter just making a fool of himself. Different day, same deal. This next video is Dr. Segal. This is a big part of America's homeless crisis. This video is just over 2 minutes long, and then we'll be wrapping this up. I got this cat pack with me, just in case. It's got my 6.
So this is one of the biggest problems that we have, and almost
Look at Tucker's face. He's like always making that sour face. All right, hooligans, let's get her started.
So this is one of the biggest problems that we have, and almost nobody has any idea what to do about it or any will to do anything. Dr. Mark Siegel has a sense of what we should do, and he joins us to tell us what it is. Doctor, thanks for coming on.
Hi, Tucker. You know, first of all, it connects to something you started the show with when you were talking about Chicago, because Chicago is 65,000 homeless, and they're overflowing into these shelters into O'Hare Airport, where there's encampments and a lot of violence is going on and crime. In L.A., there's 50,000 homeless that don't have shelters. In New York, they are sheltered. Almost 70,000 are sheltered. And I'll tell you in a minute why shelters make a difference as step one. I have 3 steps for what our Democrat mayors could actually do if they're listening. 3 steps. But as you said, mental illness is a big part of this. 13 times more likely to become homeless if you were in prison. Domestic abuse, you lose your house, you lose your job. That's what we're dealing with here. And mental illness is really high up. So what do? Number one, you provide shelters. You got to have extensive shelters, but that's not enough. Affordable housing would be nice, and LA does not have that. That's why everyone's fleeing LA. And so we need affordable housing. Number 2, we need community service here. We need the community to get involved and not just give somebody a place to live, but how about something to do? A bridge to jobs, maybe give some payment, something that gives somebody their self-worth back. And the third idea is we need to address this mental illness, 1/3 severe mental illness. We need clinics on wheels in cities that come and take care of our homeless and deal with the mental illness parts. And in prisons, by the way, I told you at the beginning, prisons are heavily involved in this. We need prison reform, Tucker, because 85% of prisoners are suffering from drug abuse. And I'll tell you, there's one state that's going to surprise you that actually has a handle on this. It's Rhode Island. They do a lot of reform in Rhode Island. So the homelessness problem, if our Democrat mayors are listening, get them housing, get them medical care, and give them something to do, Tucker.
Dr. Mark Siegel for us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Been lots of talk about the homeless lately. Are they actually going to do anything about it? I can't remember where it was now, but they're talking about paying homeless people $1,000. $1,000 a month. I'm trying to think what it was. We just covered it yesterday, maybe, where they had that ex-crackhead who was saying that back when he was homeless, he was getting maybe $300 a month, and all he was doing is it was enabling him to continue to use drugs. Imagine having $1,000 a month just for living in a tent. You guys are killing me on Tucker's face. I'm trying to see who said it. Oh, I can't find it now. Somebody said on YouTube, it's what is it, Bert and Ernie face. Right on the mark. It's been so long. I forgot because Sesame Street's racist or something, or it was 2 years ago, so I totally forgot about all that stuff. And then True Crazy said, it looks like Tucker's always looking into the sun. You guys, you got it. You got it. He's always got that sour face like on Rick and Morty. All right, hooligans. Well, that's that. That is all we have for today. And we're right on time because I got to leave. I got some stuff I got to do. I'm going to read you guys the spiel. Then we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't think we're going to have a watch party. We'll see if I find some more stuff. I think we're going to end up playing the game later. I don't know if we're going to do it on the main channel, but if you go to JeffMAC Gaming, you can come hang out with me and play the game. Stress-free. I actually talk to the chat and stuff as much as I can, like in between sessions and whatnot. I don't know. It's just for hanging out, just for having fun. We don't have to do serious stuff all the time. That's how you burn out. I know it makes people mad. I played the game on the main channel the other day and everybody got mad. So, oh, why is JeffMAC playing the game? Because I can't watch TV. Because every time I watch TV, all I can think is politics. Everything I see, everything I hear, all I see is politics. But if I play the game, it's not in my brain. It's a way for me to recharge my batteries and a way for us all to hang out and just have fun and not be all serious and stuff. But I don't want to keep pushing people away from the main channel. So we'll be gaming it up on JeffMAC Gaming on YouTube. Eventually, I'll probably make a Twitch channel. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. Either way, let's do the spiel deal and then the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, hooligans, when you get a second, please go to jeffmaclive.com. You can also find the link in the description. All of my links are listed on the homepage, so you'll be able to find the link to join Gilded for free. Gilded is currently the best way to receive notifications for when and where we go live, every time we go live. You'll also receive notifications for important updates and things I feel you should know. You can access Gilded from the website, but it's better to get the app on your phone. That way you can get the notifications directly on your phone whenever there's stuff going on. There is a news board on Gilded to keep you up to date with everything going on around the world. And there's a ton of hooligans in there to hang out with every day, all day. Chat it up about pretty much whatever you like, so definitely join Gilded. Also on the JeffMAC Live homepage, you can find links to the merch store if you would like to grab some merch. We have shirts, hoodies, stickers, and coffee mugs. Everything is displayed in black and white or white and black. But if you find something you like, just click on that item to see all the colors that item comes in. You can also find links to PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, Stripe, Zelle, and Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to support what I do. There's also a link for the Amazon wish list if you would like to send me stuff. My birthday is in 8 days, I think. Yeah, 8 days. So if you guys would like to send me stuff, we're going to do a birthday unboxing probably the last week of March. That way you guys don't have to pay for extra shipping and stuff, because that's a bunch of nonsense and waste of money anyways. But anything you purchase directly from the wish list will be sent straight to me without having to send me an email and seek an address and all that stuff. It's really simple to use. Also, if you would like to send me stuff for my birthday, just send me an email or message me on whatever platform you're connected to me on for the P.O. Box address. I will give it to you so you can send me something fun for my birthday that will make a part of the unboxing. And then finally, on the JeffMAC Live homepage, you can find links to join the membership programs. There's memberships for YouTube, Gilded, Discord, Odyssey, Rumble, and Twitch. So that's my spiel deal. Let's get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, hooligans, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, hooligans, that's that for now. I appreciate all of you guys. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you guys so much for all your support. I'll see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.